We'll be starting this meeting in a minute. Thanks. Okay, thank you everybody for attending this Police Services Board meeting for Thursday, December 13th. I'll start off by declarations of conflict of pecuniary interest from the board. Member Stewart.
Yes, I have a conflict on number 221.
Can you explain it, please? Thanks.
It's just the principal is an acquaintance of mine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, minutes of the previous meetings. Item number 210. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Member Caslin, Member Ganzel. Any comments or questions on the minutes? All those in favor? Carried. Reports from the board chairperson. So before we begin the public meeting, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance that the Police Services Board meeting is live streamed, and the video recording of today's meeting will be posted on the board's YouTube channel. And then the tribute to Indigenous lands. To begin today's meeting, I'd like to acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and this acknowledgement reminds us that the great standard of living that we enjoy in Niagara is directly related to the resources and friendships of the Indigenous people who make up our community. Now I have special recognition to Members Barrick and Member Caslin. I'd like to take the opportunity to publicly recognize Dave Barrick and Al Caslin, who are attending the final Police Service Board meeting today. Member Barrick was officially appointed to the board on December 18th, 2014, and Member Caslin joined the board on January 22nd, 2014 for Dave Barrick and 2016 for Al Caslin. Throughout their tenures, Members Barrick and Caslin have served with dedication and committed an enormous amount of time and energy to a number of extremely important policing issues. Their contributions to police governance and board discussions will be missed. On behalf of the board and staff, we extend our appreciation to the valuable contributions made by Members Barrick and Caslin, and we wish them success in their future endeavors. Now, Member Barrick, you were first on the board. Do you have any comments?
Well, I thank you, Chair Gill. I appreciate the shout out, so to speak. It's been an incredible term of the Police Services Board. This round, I've been honored and it's been a pleasure to be part of it. We've had some incredible accomplishments. For me personally, the main reason that I had advocated to be on this board was to keep the Port Colborne Police Detachment open, and that was the case for this term. I really hope that the next term of this board seriously considers keeping the detachments where they are across the Niagara region. But it's more than that. We had a significant transition from the previous headquarters in St. Catharines to this one in Niagara Falls. We had incredible negotiations this term. We had some difficult budgetary discussions that has paid off for taxpayers in Niagara. But probably the most important thing, for me anyway, was the command team that we have here today. That was a significant transition as well for the chief and the 2 deputies. And I think we're poised very well into the future with this command team. So it's been a pleasure for me to be part of it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. And Al?
Thank you, Chair. And it has been an honor and a privilege to serve the service. And I particularly want to recognize my fellow board members, the executive team that I'm so proud to be part of putting in place, and in the service as well. And in particular, I wanted to recognize one particular event that took place that was a little bit outside policing, but was definitely community, and that is the Cops for Cancer ride that was led by Deputy Bill Forty, and brought from the West. And I was so proud to be part of that as a personal best on my part, but also contributing to the community and riding with such an incredible team of members of the force, as well as the RCMP and others, the EMS that joined us. It was an incredible experience, one I'll never forget. So thank you very much for my time on the board, and thank you to Deputy Forty for bringing Cops for Cancer to Niagara.
Chief?
Yes, thanks very much, Chair. Just on behalf of the service and the executive leadership team, I want to extend our thanks to yourself, Chair Gale, members Barrick and Caslin, and really the whole board for your dedication and willingness to work with us, to listen, to learn, and to better understand the complexities of policing. My comments will be aimed at the 3 outgoing in particular, and as you've come to appreciate, there are many facets of policing with many very specialized mandated functions that we as a police service are required to provide to our community and in our commitment to provide public safety. On behalf of the 2 deputies and I, we want to thank you for the confidence that you had in us as the command team and leading the organization, leading the service through a period of unprecedented change within our organization and within policing as a whole. We've enjoyed working with you, and we wish you all the success in all future endeavors. And Chair Gale, we look forward to working with you as a member of Regional Council, and we'll wait to see what happens tonight as to whether or not you remain on the board. But again, thanks to all 3 of you. We've really enjoyed working with you.
Thank you for that, Chief. And the Chief made reference tonight there's a vote at Regional Council, so I may or may not be here at the next meeting. If I'm not here, then I'll ask the incoming chair if I can say a few words in a future meeting, but we'll see what happens tonight. Next is the Kristen French CACN Holiday Appreciation Event. On December 5th, the Kristen French Child Advocacy Center, Niagara, hosted its annual Holiday Appreciation Event at George's Greek Village in St. Catharines. The event honored the organization's numerous donors, volunteers, board members, and partners. Vice Chair Ganzel and Member Stewart attended the event on behalf of the board. Member Stewart, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, just something I know I've said before, but as a former educator, the Christian French Child Advocacy Center Niagara is just indispensable in how we provide the service to children who have been abused, witnessed abuse, or whatever, and gives them, for those that don't know, it gives them a real place where they don't have to tell their horrible stories again and again and again, because we're partners with Family and Children's Services, with the medical community, with the police, and all the people that would be involved in that. And it's tremendously beneficial, really as part of our service to victims. And I think it's just terrific. So I'm honored to go to their events and represent the police board there. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Next is the Chief's Christmas Breakfast. On December 6th, the Niagara Regional Police Service hosted its annual Chief's Christmas Breakfast in the community room at police headquarters. The event featured the Holy Cross Catholic School Choir. Chief, I'm out of line. You're going to be mentioning this, aren't you? On yours?
I was planning to, but
No,
feel
no,
free.
it was your due, so I'm going to defer to you on this.
Thank you.
I'll just say Vice Chair Ganzel, members McKendrick and Stewart, the board solicitor, board staff, and I attended this worthwhile event, and I'll defer to you and your comments on that item. CAPG webinar session. On December 6th, members McKendrick and Stewart participated in the CAPG webinar in the economics of policing, complexity, and costs in Canada. The webinars are offered on a monthly basis as an educational resource to keep boards and police executives apprised of issues currently impacting the policing community. Then the inaugural meeting of Regional Council. On December 6th, Niagara Region held its inaugural meeting of Council to officiate the commencement of the 2018 to 22 term of Council. The official portion of the meeting included the election of the regional chair and the declarations of oaths for regional councillors, followed by a reception and dinner at John Michael's Banquet Hall in Thorold. Vice Chair Ganzel, members McKendrick and Stewart, the board solicitor and executive director, Chief McCullough, Deputy Chiefs Flynn and Forty, and I attended the event. The NRPS Business Plan Working Session. On November 28th, Member Stewart attended the Services Business Plan Working Group session in his role as chair of the board's Business Plan Committee. The working group sessions included analysis of the NRPS telephone survey that was conducted during the month of October. The survey results will assist in measuring the perception of police effectiveness, the sense of safeness in the community, the importance of existing community programs, and future policing priorities. The next meeting will be held on Friday, December 14th, and additional meetings will be scheduled in the new year. Member Stewart, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you, Chair. Just brief comment. You've already mentioned that we have a meeting tomorrow, and where we're at right now is we'll be going through some draft first three goals and analyzing those tomorrow and getting input from the committee as we begin to develop that draft plan that'll come forward in the new year for the board. So we're getting down to the putting together the plan now, and tomorrow is the next meeting in that.
And on a side, I'm proud that 2 or 3 times in that report, I said the word community. This has been an issue with all of us, or our focus of community relations in that, and I know our chief and the 2 deputies ensured us when they were put in their positions that the community comes first, and that's how we represent. The Police Service Board represents the community, so I'm proud that you're taking it this way, Member Stewart, on this, and the more we can do for the community, that's our job, so thank you. The NRPS Recruit Swearing-In Ceremony. On December 20th, the service will be hosting a swearing-in ceremony for 10 new recruits to the Niagara Regional Police Service. The ceremony is being held in the community room at Police Headquarters. Vice Chair Ganzel and Member Stewart will be attending the event on behalf of the board. I may or may not be there, depending on tonight. Then a holiday message. On behalf of the board, we extend our warmest thoughts and best wishes for a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. We are grateful to our chief, his executive staff, and service members who give it their time, ideas, and hard work to make our community a better, safer place for all of us to live and enjoy. I would like to take this opportunity to extend the board's best wishes to each and every one of you for a wonderful season and a safe, happy, and healthy new year. Upcoming board meetings. Next committee meetings are Thursday, January 10th at 8:30 here in the community room. And the next board meeting is Thursday, January 24th at 8:30, again here at the community boardroom. Next, reports from the Chief of Police.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll recall last meeting we talked about there was a special fund request for Detective Sergeant Steve Magistrelli, who is going to be competing at the World Powerlifting Championships in Mongolia. We have Detective Sergeant Steve Magistrelli here this morning. I'll just, by way of introduction, I'll give a little brief overview of Steve and his passion for the sport of powerlifting. He's been competing for over 20 years. He's a 5-time national champion and 10-time provincial champion. And so in October, he attended in Mongolia, where he finished second overall in his category. So he won the silver medal. But in individual competitions, he won the gold medal in the squat competition, and he won the silver in the deadlift competition. So aside from being a big strapping lad, I'm going to invite the good-looking Steve Magistrelli forward to the microphone.
Thank you, Steve. Come on up. Chief, could you please tell us his new position here at regional headquarters?
Yes. So as of January the 5th, he will be starting as the executive officer to Deputy Chief Flynn.
Thank you very much. Steve, you have the microphone.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much for that introduction. First and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you to the board for their support and assisted me in going out to Mongolia for the World Championships. It's been a passion of mine that you know, it's not an opportunity that I can take every year, but this year was something that I dedicated to going, and it was an entire community that assisted me in going to this competition, including the board here. So without your support, that trip and this contest, which was a dream of mine, would never have taken place. So my sincere thanks for all your support and the community as well. I'm humbled by the amount of support that I received to go there. That being said, the story really, in terms of my experience out there, was I flew from Toronto to Seoul, Korea, and then into Mongolia. That entire flight took about 23 hours. I arrived late Monday night, and by Tuesday afternoon, I started feeling sick. I'm not sure exactly what was the culprit. It could have been something in the water. I'm not too sure, but it was an aggressive sickness. And Tuesday and Wednesday, I lost a significant amount of weight for me, 15 pounds. Some would argue that's just a bucket of sand off a beach, but to me it was important. I started feeling a little bit better by Thursday night. Friday was the first day that I was able to really start eating again, and I competed Saturday morning. So it was really a journey of self-discovery to go from a real low, thinking that I made this trip for nothing and I was going to let down everybody that helped me get there, to a point where I was able to, even though I wasn't at 100%, I was still able to give my best. And I left nothing behind and came close. I was only 7.5 kilos from the first place finisher. So next year in South Africa, I will be world champion. I did bring the medals too, sorry, in case you wanted to take a look at them.
And we'll want a picture with them, with the chief and that if you don't mind. But curiosity, the weights that you lifted for the golds and silvers, and the representation from North America that was there, or from Canada, if you could comment on that, please.
So I was a part of Team Canada. So there was a number of lifters from the CPU, which is the Canadian Powerlifting Union that I belong to, that we represented Team Canada. I believe there was, I don't know if there's 6 or 7 of us that made the trip. It's a long trip, expensive trip, so you know, different years has different sizes of teams. There was also a large American team. The lifter who won in my weight class was a big American. So I'll be meeting him again in South Africa, and we'll have a different encounter next year. But yes, I was part of Team Canada. So in powerlifting, it's squats, bench press, and deadlift in that order. And at the World Championship level, you get medals for your individual lifts and then the overall. So I won the gold in the squat with a 750-pound squat, and I won the silver in the deadlift with a 660-pound deadlift, and I won the overall silver. I came in 5th in the bench press with a small 540 bench. So there's some big benchers in the world out there, so I'll get them all.
Very good. I open up to the board. Any comments or questions? Member Ganzel.
Steve, I was certainly excited when I heard, the opportunity that you had to go, and I had a chance briefly to hear a little bit of the insight of your experience in Mongolia. But just wanted to extend my appreciation for your efforts in making Canada proud and this police service proud. So thank you again.
Well, thank you very much.
Member Castlin.
Thank you, and congratulations, Steve. And I know our paths have crossed a number of times over the years, and I can tell you that Glenn from GM, where I came from, is definitely proud of you. I know he's one of your coaches and partners in lifting.
Yes, he is.
And that I saw him just the other day, and he was commenting on how proud he was of your accomplishment. So thank you for making us proud as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Member Stewart.
Thank you, and just congratulations from a former fellow Y member in the St. Catharines Y, where I belong. And I don't know, you might have to quell some rumors back at the Y, because they were saying that that you left to go somewhere else to lift because we didn't have enough weight at the Y for you to lift. So maybe we'll have to find out if that's the truth or not. Thanks. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Member McKendrick.
It just stands out to me what a wonderful story of determination to make a dream come true, and the perseverance and resilience, despite what you went through when you got there, to still show up and do what you do well. So thank you. We're proud of you, and thank you for representing us so well. Good luck next year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now you're the executive assistant for Deputy Flynn. Do you call each other sir? One out of respect, the other out of fear?
I'll always call them sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, can you come up here for a picture with your medals, if you don't mind? Do you have the medals with you?
I do.
If you don't mind?
Sure.
And I think the whole board, if you don't mind, a picture with the chief, then I'd like the whole board in a picture with you, because this is a great thing for the Niagara Regional Police Service. Thanks. So, Chief, you have the mic. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. With the incoming Detective Sergeant Steve Magistrelli, we do want to thank the outgoing Detective Sergeant Tara Henderson, who will be returning to frontline uniform patrol duties in Niagara Falls, and Detective Sergeant Josie Hollingshead, who will be returning to our prisoner management unit. So we thank them for their dedication in assisting both deputies over the past several years. 2 years for Josie and 4 years for Tara.
Chief, Tara, come on up to the mic. You notice how I don't ask? Thank you. Tara, I want to thank you for what you've done for us and the liaisons you've had with us and that. Do you have any comments for us?
Do I have an option?
Better not. Go ahead.
I don't have a choice, do I?
Not really. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure working for, well, I had Deputy Matthews initially, and then Deputy Forty for the last couple of years as the executive officer. It's been a wonderful experience certainly an experience that many sergeants at this level in the organization don't get exposure to the board and the executive leadership team. And I just want to say thanks to the executive leadership team and the board. It's been a fantastic 4 years, but I'm certainly looking forward to going back to frontline.
Thank you very much. Member Ganzel, you have some comments?
Yeah, I would be amiss not to say something. I know yourself with Deputy Matthews at the time and Inspector Frayne, well, now Superintendent Frayne at the time, had major involvement in the construction of this building, and more importantly, the coordination of moving everyone in here over a period of several months. I think that shows a very strong leadership style in yourself, and I think from a board perspective, and certainly from me personally, I'm very appreciative of how smooth all of that went, and that transition was excellent. So it's a credit to your expertise, and I'm sure the areas that you learned and skill sets that you picked up in these 4 years here at headquarters will be certainly an asset to your career out on the road. So again, thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Member Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Thanks, Tara, for being a real breath of fresh air and a good sense of humor around the board in your dealings at the board level. I'm sure you shared the same thing with the executive team up there and kept them on their toes. The only thing I'm wondering is about the transition between you and Detective Sergeant Magistrali. Will you be passing on a set of screwdrivers for him so he really understands the job he has to do? Oh, well, then there you go. Power tools. Okay, well, then hopefully you'll be able to educate him so we can continue on the great tradition. Okay, thanks, Tara.
Thank you. Oh, Member Caslin has.
Yeah, one of the things you may not know is that Tara was one of the Cops for Cancer's riders and made it the entire distance through all the training rides and all the days on the ride itself. And you always knew when Tara was there, because she never stopped talking and singing and making jokes from the back. So thank you for that, and hopefully Steve can fill those shoes next year on the ride, the 400-kilometer ride. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Chief, is Jody here or no? Josie, no, okay, thanks.
So I'll continue on just with regards to the annual Chief's Christmas breakfast. So that was held on Thursday, December the 6th, and it was held here in the community room. All proceeds raised from this event go directly to sponsor families through community care. Our goal was to sponsor 4 families. The event surpassed our goal, and we were able to sponsor 5 families. We raised about $5,600 as a result of the event, attended by an incredible amount of members from our service and community partners and members of the board. I certainly want to thank everybody that was involved in organizing this event, in particular my executive assistant, Miss Maria Izzo, who always puts a lot of passion and effort into planning these great events for us. Also want to thank Holy Cross Secondary School for the choir that participated at that event. I mentioned before in my comments at the event, it's really, it feels inappropriate to refer to them as a choir because they're just such an amazing, talented group of musicians. So we certainly thank the school for allowing them to participate. Just want to cover off the shooting incident that happened in Pelham, where the SIU is investigating that incident. On November 29th, at approximately 12:15 p.m., 2 on-duty Niagara Regional Police officers were in the area of Roland Road and Sulphur Springs Drive in the town of Pelham. The officers were in the area to investigate a collision that had occurred several days prior. 2 officers became involved in an altercation, and one of the officers discharged his firearm multiple times, striking the officer. The officer was struck, was transported to a hospital and is recovering from his injuries. The investigation is currently in the hands of the Special Investigation Unit. In accordance with the Police Services Act, Ontario Regulation 267/10, that governs SIU investigations, it's very clear that information with respect to the incident or the investigation shall not be disclosed to any person. This legislation restricts the amount of information that I can therefore share at this time. In the spirit of transparency, I've also asked the Ontario Provincial Police to assist with this investigation to determine if there is any criminal culpability that falls outside of the SIU's scope. And the investigation is still ongoing, and I can advise the board that our service and members intend to fully cooperate with the SIU and OPP as their investigation continues. I want to talk about an SIU case from 2017 that has been closed. During the early morning hours of October 7th, 2017, subject officer was on patrol in the downtown core of St. Catharines when he observed a disturbance or a fight in progress on the sidewalk just down from L3 nightclub. The subject officer intervened and subsequently arrested one male for public intoxication. At approximately 8:55 p.m. on October the 12th, the arrested male's mother contacted the staff sergeant on duty in St. Catharines, alleged that her son had suffered a fractured orbital bone. The mother alleged that the arresting officer had caused the injury as opposed to the fight that had occurred prior to police involvement. The SIU was notified and commenced an investigation. In his closure letter, Director Laparco advised the SIU investigation has concluded and there are no grounds for criminal charges against any officers, and there were no concerns expressed by the SIU director in his notification letter. Just reporting on the 2018 homicides. So to date, we have had 2 homicides in 2018. Comparatively, we had 3 for last year, 1 in 2016, 6 in 2015, and 3 in 2014. So we're hoping that trend continues. With regards to traffic fatality and serious collisions, there was 1 fatal collision in the region in the month of November that was determined to be medical related, so it doesn't therefore count with regards to our year-to-date stats regarding fatal collision. So far in 2018, we've had 15 fatal collisions, and we've had 16 life-threatening injury collisions for this year. Comparatively, we had 18 fatal collisions in 2017, 20 in 2016, and 17 in 2015. So we are trending favorably in that regard as well. And I attribute the efforts of our frontline officers and our traffic enforcement unit for their traffic and education that is ongoing on a day-to-day basis. Some items in the news. During the month of November, members of our street crime unit in St. Catharines and our guns, gangs, and grow unit conducted an investigation into the trafficking of cocaine occurring on Vine Street. Identified a male from the Toronto area that was based at this address selling drugs. As a result of the investigation, 2 males were arrested and a large quantity of cocaine and currency believed to be the proceeds of drug sales were seized. In total, $11,470 worth of cocaine and about $1,400 cash was seized. Another investigation in November in Niagara Falls involving our 2-district street crime unit regarding the trafficking of heroin. On November 21st, officers arrested a male, executed a Controlled Drugs and Substances Act search warrant at an apartment in Niagara Falls. In total, officers seized over $25,000 worth of heroin, along with cocaine, crystal meth, and Canadian currency believed to be the proceeds of crime. Just in the news, there was, you saw maybe just recently, there was the wrap-up of Project Renner, which was a joint forces investigation led by the OPP Provincial Weapons Unit. Multiple agencies were involved in that, including the OPP, Peel, Halton, Hamilton, Toronto, Durham, Barrie Police, London Police, RCMP, and ourselves. A quantity of firearms and 1.2 kilograms of cocaine were seized along with other drugs. There was one location in Niagara that was the subject of this project, and there was one male arrested in that. Really emphasizes the importance of collaboration and cooperation between the various police services, and we thank the OPP for their efforts in leading this investigation for public safety. The arrest in our area was for the manufacturer of illegal and untraceable firearms that were fortunately in this case prevented from getting into the hands of criminals on the street. Another incident in the news, since October of 2018, Niagara Regional Police 5-district location has been continuing to actively investigate a series of break-and-enters that have occurred throughout the town of Fort Erie. With the recent increase in break-and-enters, we've deployed additional patrol units to that area. And on November 23rd, approximately 2:30 p.m., a break-and-enter occurred at a residence on Gilmore at Mary Street in Fort Erie. A Good Samaritan observed a male running from the residence, and the Good Samaritan chased after the male, causing him to drop a quantity of stolen goods. Additional patrol units arrived and were able to quickly locate and arrest the suspect. Detectives were able to further charge the male with several other break-ins that have occurred in that area. So great work by all in that incident, and we certainly thank the Good Samaritan, and we'll look after making the appropriate accommodations down the road for that. Shooting incident that happened on in St. Catharines on Manchester Avenue. Our 1-district detective office, with the assistance of our forensic unit, entered into a lengthy criminal investigation with respect to this incident, and as a result, 2 individuals believed to be responsible for the shooting have been identified. On November 24th, 2 males were arrested and charged with discharge firearm with the intent to endanger life. And those charges are still before the courts. Another incident on December the 6th, members of our Special Investigative Services Morality Unit, with the assistance of Guns, Gangs, and Grow Unit, and the St. Catharines Street Crime Unit, concluded a 3-month investigation into with the execution of 6 controlled drugs and substances search warrants. Warrants were executed at 3 dwelling houses, 1 hotel room, and 2 motor vehicles. And as a result of their efforts, we seized 237 grams of cocaine worth $23,700, 124 grams of purple heroin valued at over $37,000, 16 grams of heroin valued at over $5,000, 13.2 grams of crystal methamphetamine valued at $2,000, and over $70,000 Canadian currency was seized as proceeds of crime. Set of brass knuckles, a HK P7 M8 handgun and ammunition, a 2013 Ford F-150 motor vehicle was also seized. Total value of the drugs seized was just under $70,000. And as a result of that investigation, a 30-year-old male from the city of Niagara Falls is facing a total of 30 charges, and a 38-year-old female and a 30-year-old male were also charged in relation to this investigation as well. On December 7th, 2018, members of our Central Region Crime Unit, with the assistance of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, 3-District Detective Office, concluded a drug investigation with the execution of a Controlled Drugs and Substances Act search warrant at a residence in Welland. And as a result of that investigation, seized 44.8 grams of cocaine with a street value of about $4,500, as well as a quantity of cash and various other indicators of trafficking. And 3 Welland residents now face charges in relation to that incident. And just with regards to the festive ride program that's underway on Saturday, December the 8th, members of our traffic enforcement unit, along with uniform and our auxiliary officers, conducted sobriety spot checks in the township of West Lincoln and the city of Thorold. Throughout the course of the evening and early morning hours, 482 cars were stopped and drivers were questioned with regards to alcohol consumption and prior drug use. As a result, 2 drivers were asked to provide samples of their breath for analysis, and both drivers registered readings within the legally allowable limit of 50 milligrams of alcohol. In addition to that, officers issued 10 provincial offense notices for various Highway Traffic Act offenses, failing to provide driver's license and driving with no insurance. And then finally, just with regards to a recent resignation of one of our officers, you recall we had an officer that was facing numerous allegations of misconduct under the Police Services Act. He resigned effective December the 1st. On April 18th, Constable Mark Tax was criminally charged with the offense of criminal harassment and harassing telecommunications. A subsequent investigation by our Professional Standards Unit resulted in allegations of discreditable conduct and insubordination under the Police Services Act. Constable Tax was initially suspended before he was reassigned to administrative position within the service. Then again on September the 4th, the Professional Standards Unit concluded the investigation of a public complaint against Tax, which resulted in allegations of discreditable conduct, insubordination under the Police Services Act. Public complaint arose from allegations that predated his arrest on April the 18th, and subsequent continued investigation resulted in further allegations of deceit, corrupt practice, and breach of confidence. On October the 6th, Tax was criminally charged with offenses under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act and was suspended from duty. Subsequent investigation by our Professional Standards Unit resulted in allegations of discreditable conduct, corrupt practice, and neglect of duty under the Police Services Act. And then again on March 20th, Tax was criminally charged with 3 counts of breach of recognizance, which resulted in allegations of discreditable conduct under the Police Services Act following an investigation by our Professional Standards Unit. The Niagara Regional Police Disciplinary Tribunal was initially convened on October the 10th, 2017 to address these numerous misconduct allegations against Tax. However, the matters were deferred pending the outcome of the criminal proceedings at the request of the Crown Attorney. And effective December 8th, Tax tendered his resignation from the police service, and on December the 11th, the hearing officer, Deputy Chief Brett Flynn, concluded disciplinary proceedings with the consent of the Crown Attorney, noting that Tax resignation had resulted in the loss of jurisdiction to hear the allegations of misconduct against Tax, as he was no longer employed as a police officer, which is subject to disciplinary provisions of Section 90 sub 1 of the Police Services Act. And that's all I have at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And before I open it up to the board, I'm just going to say you quoted Section 267.10 of the Police Services Act with regards to the SIU investigation of the pellet incident, that you nor I nor the board members can comment on this, nor any service member, because as soon as the SIU gets involved, it's out of our hands. I've never had so many phone calls, and as a counselor, a lot of people like to say they got phone calls on a lot of things. I had a ton of phone calls from different news outlets and papers and citizens about what went on here. Even a major American news outlet called me when I was on an orientation run with regional counselors, and they asked why, as commissioner, I couldn't make comments. Like the teams of U.S. go up there and they all stand up there with 20 of them and they start making comments. And I said, this is Canada. It's in the hands of the chief, and then when it goes to the SIU, it's in the hands of them. We can't comment. So I caution anybody on this board from making any references to the Pelham incident. Certainly there might be questions on the officer that just resigned. But I also say to the people out there that if they have questions about this, call their local MPP or the Premier's office or the Cabinet, and that because there was a Safer Ontario Act coming into play over the last couple of years, which was shelved when the new government came in, the new Conservative government came in. But there were a couple things there that I think everybody agrees on, or most people agree on, and that's board makeup, different identities on the board, seeing the strengths and weaknesses of boards, the suspension of officers with pay. These are issues that have to be addressed. Now, people want to know more about transparency on incidents that happen out there. And maybe I'm going too far in my comments, but they know where I am if they want to come after me. If there's not enough transparency on these things, it's up to the province to change these things. But we have to follow the laws. Whether the chief agrees with the laws or I agree with the laws, we're tied down by them. So I just caution any comments on Pelham, please don't make them, or any questions, but I'll defer to the board on this. So if there's any questions for the chief on his items, Member Ganzel.
Chief, thank you for the, and for you, Chair, thank you for the update on several items. I think, again, the outstanding police work between our agencies on the gun arrests that were made recently, I think, again, speaks well. But more to the matter of former officer tasks on this police service. He had so many, if you want to call it, issues or matters that came in your presentation to us at so many different meetings. I would hope that the service, as part of their recruitment and vetting and the ability to do background checks and to find, the best officers, and I believe our police service does have the best officers, and there will always be one that somehow slips through the process. And maybe he developed this behavior while on the job, but I suspect it was probably prior. But I was hoping that you would have some comments about looking at the selection processes and maybe seeing if there was any situation where he somehow fell through the cracks, and if there is, do you have a method of improving upon that selection process and eradicating an issue that might be within the system, something we could close off?
Thank you for the question. Through Mr. Chair, we have undertaken a review of the hiring and recruiting practices, particularly related to this individual, to really understand if there were any gaps, if there was any information that we missed, and if there were any behaviors in particular that we missed that may have precluded us from hiring him in the first place. We'll have a better understanding in the future as to what that looks like. But the matters are the criminal matters are still before the court. I believe the next appearance is sometime in January. So we'll continue to follow that as it goes through the courts.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Chief, and the next board, I hope, has a report come to us, be it in confidential or in public, and I hope a lot of it's in public because the public wants to know what's going on this, but about the hiring and these procedures. But I defer to you for the time frame on this because I know there's a lot of issues for you to look into. Member Caslin.
Thank you. And Chief, I just want to recognize your efforts in dealing with issues, particularly in the service, and also Deputy Flynn. I know it's difficult, but it's something that the community relies on you for, and it's obviously you're taking these issues seriously and you're dealing with them in an effective and a swift manner. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments.
Any other questions for the Chief? Okay, Chief, I have a few questions. Member McKendrick.
Not a question, just a comment back to the breakfast. And just wanted to mention that it was a wonderful experience of community and partners coming together. The atmosphere was festive and in support of community care. But what really stood out to me was the powerful comment shared by Betty Lou Suter from Community Care and her experience with the relationship with the police service and the response, the professional supportive response and relationships between the service and her agency and staff. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. It was powerful for me, and I wanted other people to be aware of that.
Thank you for those comments, and I would say as well, obviously we've had some difficult times of late, and the outpouring of support that we've had from the community and our community partners has been fantastic, and I thank them, and it's a message that I try and deliver to our members all the time. We hire from the human race, and there are, unfortunately, there are issues that go along when you hire from people from the human race, and we, you know, in the interest of transparency, we will hold people accountable, and appropriate discipline will be meted out through the process that's in place and strictly outlined within the Police Services Act. So thank you for that.
Okay, Chief, I have a couple questions here. The series of break-ins, you addressed the break-ins in Grimsby, and I know over the last 3 or 4 months I've had calls from St. Catharines, the Yates Streets area, Niagara Lake, Fort Erie, Port Colborne, and now Grimsby, about break-ins, about rashes of break-ins. Now, I remember talking to the mayor of Fort Erie, who said they arrested the person, he came back doing it. This is his comment. And at Yates Street, the residents there said the police arrested the same person that came back again and did it. Now, this is their comment again. Is it the same people doing the same thing? Do we have a problem with the courts? And I know I have more free reign on what my comments because I represent the community. But is it the same person all the time, or what has to be changed? Because I think our service is doing a great job. But what is the problem here? I've never had calls like the break-ins we've been having in the last 4 or 5 months. Or is it just because it was election time, although I've had comments in the last 3 weeks, too? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in some instances, particularly the incidents that occurred in Fort Erie, there was a number of incidents that were related to a particular individual who was arrested, released, and arrested again after investigation determined that a person was responsible for additional break-and-enters. You know, I think we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in that there is there's a judicial process in place with regards to bail hearings. I can assure you that when it's appropriate for our officers to request that officers be held in custody for a bail hearing and to have a reverse onus and determine whether or not the person should be released, we do all of that. And it's up to the justice of the peace to determine whether or not the individual should be released. So. And then there are conditions that are placed on that individual if they are released, and we do our best with the resources that we have allocated to ensure that individuals abide by their release terms of release.
So, stepping into comments that I have to watch what I say, but carding. I know one of the Police Service Board chairs, I thought it was Hamilton, but it might have been somewhere else, said carding is not carding has hurt us. And I know the pendulum was this way possibly and has now gone this way. But I think the comment was made something like at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you have a person walking around with an axe hammer in the middle of your residential neighborhood, the police officer goes over and asks them, I'd like to talk to you, here's my name. And if the person says, I don't want to say anything, the police officer has to leave. Now, there's a happy medium. Could this be reflective on why all the break-ins are, because I know the stats that we had last time, we had thousands of carding items, and then there was minimal, less than 100 in the last year, and I can't quote the stats, but it was significantly less. And the police officer, I know when I was a cop in the 70s, we used to pull over people all the time, and maybe it went the wrong way then, but we asked them, what are you doing here? If you're in a business development and there's 4 of you in a car driving around in the middle of the night, the public wanted us to ask the questions. Now, I'm not saying that Toronto went the wrong way. I know these laws, most of our laws are based on Toronto areas and that. And I'm probably getting hot water for saying that, but regardless, our police, I've talked to enough police officers out there that have more or less let me know that in the middle of the night, why do we bother asking questions when our job could be in jeopardy if we go the wrong way? So are my comments out of line, Chief, with regards to the break-ins? Or like, is this something that the government has to address because the public is not being served by people not asking questions or being stumped that you can't ask questions in the middle of the night? And I don't care if it's white, black, indigenous, or whatever. In the middle of the night, I just use an example, if you're in the middle of a residential neighborhood that you don't, and you're walking around with something that shouldn't be, the question should be asked. Am I out of line for this question, Chief? And I want to know, could this be problems with our break-ins and some of the things going on?
Thanks for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair. We have no information at this point to suggest that the break-ins that have occurred, particularly in Fort Erie, are a result, or the increased number of break-ins that we've seen are a result of the street check legislation that our officers and officers all across Ontario are bound by. As we know, the legislation is quite onerous, and it's quite challenging, I think, for some officers to fully appreciate and understand, and I think in some cases they are erring on the side of caution in not engaging in individuals. We obviously want our officers to engage individuals as often as possible. It's in the spirit of community policing. We also want our members to respect the charter rights of individuals as well. So it's a delicate balance of being proactive and doing what we feel is appropriate police work, but balancing the rights of individuals, and we certainly would not step outside the boundaries of the charter in that respect.
So that was a great answer. I wanted to put that out there, and I appreciate your answer. I expected an answer like that. So just from talking to enough officers and comments from police service boards that they hear from police that they're stymied in the middle of the night, and I use that example all the time, but there's other times too. My last comment, Chief, is a bit of a humorous one, but it just doesn't sound right, saying festive ride program. Yeah, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Presentations, we have none, Deb? Thank you. So consent agenda items, item number 211 to 217, I'd like to move in block. May I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Member McKendrick, Member Stewart. Who wants to be first? Member Ganzel.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, the item that I want to talk about is number 211. That's the public complaints. It's on the page, basically the first page in, which has a table. Talks about average number of days to complete an investigation. I see quarterly comparisons of 26 and then in 2017, 0. Must have completed something. It can't be 0. And going over to the next row, in the year to date, average number of days is 29. Again, nothing to compare from the previous year. Is that just an oversight? I mean, you have to have a number of days to complete them in all the years.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll have Inspector Woods, who oversees our professional standards unit, qualify the rationale for that.
Good morning. Through you, Mr. Chair, are you referring to the top section, sir, where it says policy and service complaints?
Yeah, it says public complaints at the very top.
Yep. And
then underneath that, policy service complaints says average number of days to complete. I see 26 and 29 for this year. And I see 0 for 2017.
I'll have to check on that for you, sir. It does say for 2017 that there were 2 policy and service complaints, so I expect that that's just a typographical error there.
Okay, thank you.
So any other comments on item number 211? If you want to email that response, and if the press or anybody else wants to get a copy of that, they can call Deb once it goes out, if that's an appropriate way of doing it for number 211. Thank you.
Absolutely, sure. Member
Ganzel, anything else? Another one?
Thank you again, Chair. On item 213, it is the report on community patrol for 2017, January 1st to the 31st. I just wanted to pass along a thank you from the Niagara Lake Community Safety Committee, which I sit on. On page 8, you reference our Lock It and Lose It program, which has been fairly successful in the Niagara Lake and Virgil area. And this year, which I'm sure will be reported in the 2018 report, members of the service headed up by Inspector McCaffrey under the guidance of Cindy White, Superintendent, and Constable Melankowski, if I pronounce it correctly. We're out in force on the 1st, and if I remember, there was well over 100 cars that were checked, with some members of the public still not getting the message that you can't leave your valuables spread out across the front seat of your vehicle. But again, a good community effort, And again, back in 2017, we had the assistance of then Constable Allen and Constable Shoenails out of Niagara Falls office. So thank you for their support in the previous years on this item. So again, thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I'll make sure it gets passed on to the officers. Thank you.
Any questions on 213? Okay, I do, Chief. On item, the Niagara Falls one about bicycle thefts. And one thing I say to the public, that these reports are from 2017, and it may make issue on things happening in 2018. If anybody has questions, they can email any board member, Deb, myself, and that, or the chief, for comments on what's happening in 2018. But this is the timing of reports and that. So in this one here, it says, due to the success of this initiative, a larger scale project will be implemented in 2018. This is about the bike thefts. Now, I know there was a string of, in the media and that, of arrests from bike thefts. Can you comment at all as how it's gone in 2018? Or am I putting you on the spot with this?
What I can say is that those efforts are ongoing, and obviously when it comes to bike thefts, there are some pretty high-end bicycles now in the neighborhood of, $5,000 to $10,000 bicycles, and sometimes the locks that they have for a bike that is of that value is probably not consistent with that, and they're easily compromised by individuals. So I would, again, it's a matter of education and teaching our members in the community to take appropriate measures to try and protect and safeguard their belongings, and that includes bicycles. Park them in places where it's highly visible, and I know that our detectives and our uniform officers are very responsive to these incidents when they occur, and they've initiated several projects throughout 2018 as well, and been successful in recovering bikes and arresting individuals as well.
So how soon will we have the report, Chief, on, say, 2018 on that issue, on how it's gone? We won't have to wait till November or December, I guess, of next year to see how 2018 went on this, will we?
So I'm not sure of the cycle of when that's expected, but we'll have it earlier than November or December for sure for next year.
Because I know I had a call from the media yesterday. It was CHCH, and they said, how's it going this year on some of these items? And I know every now and then you'll have the first 6 months of 2018 or something on reports. So that's more or less what I was leading to on this thing. So thank you. And no other questions on item 213? Member Ganzel, anything else?
Thank you, Chair. And again, through you, on item number 214, this is the one calling the use of auxiliary inspectors and volunteers. First, I want to thank the members that are auxiliaries and other members of the community. I think this is a very impressive number of 10,919 hours of auxiliary service. And I know those are volunteers. They're a part of our community. They're part of the overall policing structure. And I think that, again, speaks very well of their commitment to the community, and obviously the services support of them. On page 3, there's some comments regarding the auxiliary chaplain inspectors. And it's just, I thought all of them were members of the auxiliary. I thought that was how the uniform was basically given out. But I see a reference that one inspector is considered to be an auxiliary chaplain inspectors, and the others are just considered to be chaplains. I believe it's Reverend Page, or is it Powell? I walked in with him for the Christmas breakfast the other day, and he was fully suited up in body armor and everything, which I don't take it being different because everybody in this police service is, has a uniform. But could you comment, is there a difference between the auxiliary chaplain inspector and the other 6 chaplains that are referenced on page 3?
So through you, Mr. Chair, not all of our chaplains, there's no requirement for them to be a member of the auxiliary. We encourage it, but again, recognizing time commitments, they're quite dedicated to their congregations that they belong to. So we acknowledge that, and if they are available to be an auxiliary member, that's fantastic. But it's more important the component that they can offer in terms of offering support and counseling and to our members when in crisis or if they need any assistance at all.
Okay, thank you. And again, I think the chaplains have done an extremely excellent work for us, and their dedication to supporting our members, sometimes during times of crisis, but at more festive seasons such as our Christmas breakfast, and that is, again, from a board perspective, something that I would certainly appreciate and certainly support, and thank them for their services. Thanks.
I would just I would echo those comments. We have a fantastic group of chaplains, but not only the chaplains, but our auxiliary members as well. Dedicated group of volunteers, as you mentioned, that donate thousands of hours. We're very fortunate, and it works out for us to be a great recruiting tool as well. A great number of them end up being full-fledged constables. So it's a great opportunity for them to try out the profession, if you will, and a great opportunity to see us, for us to see them in action and see whether or not they're an appropriate fit. So thank you.
Any other comments? Member Caslin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just digging into the numbers just a little bit further, I see the resigned column, and then I see the hired as constables. Is an individual considered resigned if he does get, in fact, hired? So that is part of the...
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, that's correct. And sometimes, unfortunately, they get hired in other jurisdictions as well. That is, you know, it's a very competitive market right now for constables.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I do note that by the end of 2017, we are down to the lowest level in 5 years. Would there be some sort of a drive to increase that number? Is that required, or is 51 the right number?
51 is probably a little on the thin side, and there's an annual recruitment that takes place, and actually there's one that's going on right now with final applications extended, I believe, until December the 17th for anyone interested in becoming a member of the auxiliary unit. So it's something that we continue to replenish each and every year.
And just for the sake of the community, what is the criteria, and why would somebody want to do that?
With regards to the criteria, it can be found on our website. It's very prescriptive on the website as to what the minimum requirements are. I think for a member of the public that is interested in becoming an auxiliary, again, there's information on the website that explains that, but it's the overall ability to give back to the community, to serve the community at various community functions, community events, and for those who have been involved in the auxiliary unit, I think for them, the feedback that I get is it's incredibly rewarding to be able to give back to their community.
Thank you.
Any other comments on item 214? Okay, I have a question, and I guess it's based on Vice Chair Ganzel's question. The 1 for 6 in the chaplains, does that mean 1 is an auxiliary officer, but we still have 6 chaplains?
We have 6 chaplains in total, one of which is an auxiliary member, and Member Ganzel is correct that it's Chaplain Gary Page is the auxiliary member.
Thank you. And then on the budget for item for the chaplains, I know it was 59,000, and then the actual budget was 72. Your budget hasn't come in, well, for 2018 it's here. How do we stand for 2018, or do you have any report on that? Because why would it be so much for 72,000, I guess is my question on that. Why did they go up to 72 on the budget for 2017?
The additional costs, I believe, relate to some training opportunities that were available through conference. There's not a lot of conference opportunities for chaplains, and there was an opportunity that presented itself to have our chaplains certified by the, I'm sorry, I forget the name of the association that governs chaplains, but that's with my understanding of the additional costs. So we've had some influx of new members to our chaplain unit, so it's a matter of getting them accredited.
So it's mostly based on chaplains that the budget went up so much?
That's right.
Okay. And thank you for that. And
sorry, with regards to the budget for 2018, I believe we're or sorry, for 2019, we're coming in at 82,000, I believe is the
proposed budget for auxiliaries?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Do you have actual for, no, you don't have actual for 2018, we're not done it yet, so.
Yeah.
Okay, and my last comment on this was that the proudest moment for me as chair, and there were a lot of proud moments for events that we've had, and that is swearing in the auxiliary officers, especially when that little guy got 3 years ago, got up and sang the national anthem, and he had just become a citizen. I don't know whatever became of him, but I think Vaughn can remember belting it out there, and he was so proud to be Canadian. He marched up there like a real trooper, and that really made it for me. Chief, you remember that happening, and that. So I encourage anybody on the board, any night coming to an event, but the auxiliary night is a wonderful time. So.
That particular individual that you're mentioning, Mr. Chair, was losing track of my nights, but that was Wednesday night. We had the Wednesday night we had the annual Christmas holiday appreciation night for the auxiliaries, and he was there proudly, as always. He does a great job for us and donates many hours to the community.
Is he still with us? I thought he had left.
No, he's still with us.
Oh, perfect. So did he sing the national anthem? Sorry to go off like this.
It was an informal event, so we did not have anyone singing the national event.
I was so proud of him.
Anthem
So, okay. So no other items. Question on number 214. Member Ganzel, any other ones?
Yes, please, sir, Chair. 215, this one deals with the bail and violent crime, Section 5 components. On page 5, just more of a question. It deals with the weekend and holiday, or what is referred to as the wash courts. And I see comments here on the very last sentence of that page, on page 5. It talks about that in 2017, the wash court matters were facilitated from the courthouse in Hamilton. I'm going to assume, has that moved with the use of video bail hearings, especially on weekends? Are we now able to not transfer people to Hamilton, or is that something that's still being done?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have Superintendent Frayne answer that question.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We don't actually attend Hamilton for that. No, that's where the Justice of the Peace is sitting. So they're the ones that conduct the bail hearing. So it gets routed through there, and that's where members of the public would have to go on certain matters if they were sureties and things like that. We also facilitate them here as sureties as well. But there's different jurisdictions that have to host it. So when it says Hamilton, Hamilton's hosting it that day, and we're here in Niagara doing it. So it's a video link that does it.
Yeah, so we're not transporting. There's no physical transport on those matters.
Correct.
Of a prisoner. Okay,
Right.
That was my concern. Thank you very much.
Any other comments on number 215? Member Ganzel? Any other comments on any of the consent agenda items? All those in favor of those items? Carried. Okay, we're to new business. Item number 218, the NRPS 2017 annual report. Can I have a mover and seconder on this, please? Member Barrick, Member Castleton, comments or questions on this item? Member Ganzel, and then Member Stewart.
Thank you. Chair, and through you, just a few comments. It more deals with some of the graphics and how things are portrayed in the report, which is, I always want to see the police service. The very last page on when it says contact us, there should be some reference to headquarters. No one out of the districts, which are all listed there numerically. We don't list the actual address of headquarters as being part of Niagara Falls. And the only other item is on the page isn't numbered. It's the one that deals with Mitchell Avenue, Niagara Falls. There's a photograph of marijuana in bags, which from the write-up, I can see it's sort of part of the same investigation, but maybe just some reference within the photo. Marijuana seized at Mitchell Avenue, something of that nature. Just to clarify what the photo is related to the incident, I think it just brings more clarity to the matter. That's it. Excellent report.
Thank you very much. We can make those amendments, not a problem at all. Yeah.
Very good. Member Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, first of all, on page 1 of the report, of the official report, starting in the calls for service. Just thanks for something I've asked for is a little bit more elaboration on calls for service, because I'm not sure that the public totally understands calls for service, and the comment about these numbers do not represent police workload, because many people would start dividing the number of officers by the calls for service and say, what are they doing all day? So I'm glad that that's in there. But I would just like to add a little something to that is for the public to understand that one call for service could be for one officer, could be for 5 officers, could be for 6. So really to put that into the context of understanding a calls for service is not a call for one officer, that it's a call for help from the police, and it could entail more than one officer. So I like that to be in the context. I say that publicly in the public meeting for those that are hearing it, and perhaps even a statement sometime in there that calls for service may involve more than one officer would really convey to the public what a call for service means. So that's not so much a question. Page 36 in the report, under Underwater Search and Recovery Unit. I was just curious in the report, I know that we provide this service on a cost recovery basis for Waterloo Police Service, and I didn't know if there was no incidents or there's no recognition of that in 2017. Perhaps that we weren't called in 2017, but I do know that we do provide that service for other police services because we have the Marine unit.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. We do have a cost recovery agreement or shared services agreement with Waterloo. They don't have a lot of water bodies in their area. We can confirm whether or not there were any calls in the 2017 year.
Yes, and I think it'd just even be nice in the annual report to mention that we also provide that service for a neighboring board, because I think, or no, neighboring service, I should say. I think that's very important for the public to understand that as well. And lastly, on page 60, this is one of Member Ganzel's cosmetic issues. At the top under public complaints, there seems to be a heading missing to say perhaps 2016, 2017 for the 2 columns there. It's just probably a typo or a printer thing, but you know, might be just more clarity for the public.
Thank you for that. Dr. Divers, who has prepared this report, is here, and he's nodding his head that he'll make those changes, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on this item? All those in favor? Carried. Item 219, the Employee and Family Assistance and Critical Incident Response Program. A mover and seconder, please. I'll look to my left. Member McKendrick, Member Stewart. Comments on this item? I see none. All those in favor? Carried. Number 220, the Employee Benefits Consultant Agent of Record, Mosey and Mosey. A mover and seconder on this item, please. Member Stewart, Member Caslin. Comments on this? I see none. All those in favor? Carried. Special fund requests. I'm not going to move them in block because Member Stewart has a conflict on item 221. So a mover and seconder on item 221, the Socks for Change program. Mover and seconder, Member Ganzel, Member McKendrick. Comments on this item? Member Ganzel.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In reading this, I just wanted to basically say, I think this is an excellent program. This was run in Toronto in my days when I was with the Attorney General. We ran something similar to this where people had donated socks, and we went out just before Christmas Eve in the evening hours to a number of the people that were homeless in the downtown core of Toronto. So I think this is an excellent program, and I certainly would lend my support to this. Thank you.
Any other comments on this item? So this really hits home, Chief, with the event that we had at the soup kitchen in Niagara Falls with the clothing that some of the people came in with and socks and shoes and that. So I'm very proud to support this item. So.
Thank you for that, and I can advise that Mr. Sam Bayo, those socks have already been received by us, and we're in the process of getting those out to the trunks of our officers' cruisers. We'll have them here in our prisoner management unit as well, so if we see anybody that is in need of an upgrade of socks, we'll make sure that they are distributed.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. Item number 222, the special fund request, the annual Chiefs Charity Gala. Any comments or questions on this item? All those in favor of this donation? Did I not ask for? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Member Caslin, Member Stewart. Any comments or questions? None? All those in favor? Carried. Item number 223 is a special fund request for the in-house United Way campaign. Mover and seconder, please. Members Ganzel, Member Stewart. Comments on this item? All those in favor? Carried. Any other new business in public? Oh, I'm sorry. We have supplemental item number 224, the annual report for equality, opportunity, discrimination, and workplace harassment. Can I have a mover and seconder on this report? Member Caslin, Member Barrick. Comments on this item? Chief, do you have any comments on it or no? All right. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Anything else in public? Chief?
Just through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify, I believe Inspector Woods has an answer to the point of clarification that Member Ganzel raised with regards to the professional standards report.
Thank you, sir. Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a typo on the third line. It would be the column to the farthest right. That number should be, for average number of days, should be 122. And just to explain that discrepancy between this year's average number and last year's average number, it's such a small sample size with only 2 investigations, and it depends on the complexity of those particular investigations. So the 2 that would have been in 2017 would have been much more complex than the ones we've had to deal with this year.
If I may, for you, Chair, we have a requirement that we have to notify somebody if it's over 30 days. Is that correct? If we can't complete it in 30 days, we notify them that we're, I can't remember the terminology, still working on the item and moving forward. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We notify the complainant that's involved in the matter.
Okay.
The public complaints in general are 120 days, is 4 months for an average public complaint, but the policy and service complaints are 30 days.
So again, the public complaints, again, the requester is being notified of the delay and the reason for it, et cetera, in compliance with our regulations, right?
That's correct, sir, as well as the OIPRD is notified.
Okay,
as well.
thank you very much.
Anything else, Chief, or is?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the end of public. We have two things here. I just want to say thank you very much. This could be my last day for the professionalism of all you people out there, especially the command team and the board of the good working relationships we've had on everything we've done. It's in public. I know you're here for confidential after this, but good luck in the future to you guys over to my right, and we'll move on from there. The last thing is Ryan McGuire, who is come to every meeting, Ryan, or have you missed one ever? Close, okay. Ryan comes to most of our meetings. He's a loyal follower of our police board. I don't know why, but he is. So Ryan would like a picture with the senior command team and with the board after we're done here. So Ryan, come on up. Thank you very much.